tip.
Good afternoon. It is July 29th, 2024. You're listening to A Little Column A, Little Column B, hosted by Will Limonos and co-hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? News out of the airplane industry. Sure seems like Southwest will no longer be doing its first come, first served policy, and will go to just the traditional. You get a ticket, you have an assigned seat, you get there, you go sit in your seat, just like all the other airlines are doing. Were you a fan of Southwest having you're in that group, you're first in line, if you get up, you're there, you get to pick your seat sooner, or do you like the more traditional, all right, I got a ticket, I can get on the plane whenever I want because I know exactly where my seat's going to be?
I generally travel alone, so the whole getting there early is on me and really just not as relevant for me. I'm trying to get there as late as possible. I'm checking in an hour and hoping. This is domestic flights. If international are, I'll give you 2 hours maybe. That's it though. I'm not going in that early. So the idea that I have to get there early to then get a better seat, not super appealing to me. But the big draw of all of the Southwest Airlines was always bags fly free, and it was a convenient way to transfer luggage, transfer equipment, golf clubs, skis. I've seen it executed well with that sort of stuff, and I still think that holds up as long as that's still the case as well. Haven't exactly been flying around the country a whole lot, but I kind of like that I get what I pay for, and it's not well, hey, if we get there real early, maybe we can make our lives a little bit better. I'm not crazy about that. I do like the motivations of just getting everyone there, because there are times where I think everybody kind of touches base, and it's like, hey, everyone's here. Do you want to board now? And like, yeah, all right, let's do it. That's never going to happen with all the seat assignments. So I suppose there was a case where that maybe would happen if you're encouraging everyone to get there as soon as possible. But I get it. It's a challenge, and I'm also sure the fairness of all that is, nobody's cutting in line on one another. But it's kind of like, well, how aggressive do you want to get with this? Like, how bad do you really want this?
How big of the difference between 15A and 14A is time wise worth it to you?
No, airline. I don't think you should really have to interact with guests quite as much. It's a stressful environment for enough people. I do think with certain airlines, you're almost, look, if you're traveling on the airline where you got the cheapest flight possible, you're not really going to be allowed to have an argument for anything. Like, I know it's a lot of money regardless, but you bought the cheapest ticket possible, and you know who else is on the plane with you? Everyone else who bought cheap tickets, and they're not exactly super thrilled with everything either. So it's just, you're putting a group of people that are all being on a tight budget together, and it's going to be an intense moment. I don't think that always benefits the cooperation of most travelers, and that's as nice as I'll say about Spirit. You got anything else with this? I mean, you're all right with it, or just? I mean, I can't even think of the last couple times I flew Southwest. It's been a while.
It's been a while as well. I think it just used to be kind of more in the mix, and it was just more the novelty of it. But then realizing, just like the other airlines, they have rewards programs, so it has much less to do with how early you get there and just, well, how many rewards do you have, because you only at the front of your group level, and by the time they get through all, and I don't travel enough to have any sort of cachet with the airlines, so it never made sense to really rush. It's like, oh, I'm going Southwest. It pretty much means if this is anything less than a full flight, then I'm sitting in the middle. And that, like you said, it's like, well, I could have paid more and could have gotten a assigned seat, but I chose to go the cheap route, and this is what you have to do.
Well, I think the other thing that's not really being thought about super much is that these Southwest flights are generally puddle jumpers. They're not cross country trips. I'm sure they have longer flights that argue against this a little bit, but for the most part, these are flights that you're getting on and not going to be on for the longest time. And sometimes you might just have a 2 and 2. There's an aisle and a window, and there isn't even a middle seat. So you're all lining up for a long flight that's not even existing. And if you end up in the middle, it's not that long of a flight, and it's fine. That is the only thing, though, that I do think is worth ponying up a little extra money, is avoiding that middle seat. You might as well be comfortable, and I think if there's any way you're going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be in the middle seat. I'll take an aisle, I'll take a window, but I really don't want the middle. I'm willing to
No one does.
pay extra to avoid that. And
Yep,
I don't want to
I think everybody is.
end up with it because you know what you didn't do? You didn't get to the airline early enough and you didn't check in and you didn't just wait and waste your time at the gate to get a better seat. I don't like that. But there's all sorts of things I have been liking this weekend. The Olympics are happening. All sorts of fun sports are back. It's just constantly on the screen, whether I'm watching reruns from some hours earlier or just catching stuff live earlier in the afternoon and morning. I'm loving the Gold Zone. I think we talked about that a couple of weeks about how the NFL Red Zone, including the guy that does NFL Red Zone with Scott Hansen, is going to be happening for the Olympics, where they're just bouncing back and forth, showing you every gold medal moment and every basically highlight of the events that are going on and kind of bouncing back and forth. I do have a little bit of problems with it, but what have you enjoyed the most about Gold Zone so far?
I think the top that you touched on it is that it has Scott Henson. And yesterday I'm watching it, and it's the afternoon. It's a Sunday afternoon. I'm listening to Scott, and he's just walking me through these events. I he was the final afternoon, and so I had listened to at least two. I think there's four total, but I think I kind of missed the very early morning, first shift, and they were fine. And I liked that you could just have it on, and it just jumped around. It makes sense that they have commercials because it's like, well, this is a free option, or it's through Peacock already. But was considering normally Red Zone, there's nothing, but Gold Zone, all right, you got some commercials, and was thinking, how much would I have paid to not miss any of these moments and to continue just going all over the place? It's a little hard to follow at times, but it's also such a challenge for them that it's just so many sports. And then Scott was really good about letting you know, okay, in this next hour, there are going to be 3 medal events. So we'll get you to those, but in between, we're going to be bouncing around and letting you know, hey, if any of these appeal to you, go to Peacock. You can just watch this event and you're not bouncing around. So immediately, if something, you're really enjoying one of the events, you could do it. But I thought Scott just was head and shoulders above the other guys. Especially, he was going over the rugby sevens and just explaining just enough without getting too much into it, and still going to the announcers, but then coming back and knowing, hey, this is an American audience trying to help people out with, kind of looks like a touchdown, but it's only worth 5 points. But then the extra, it's not just an extra point. If you kick it through the field goals, then it's worth 2. So now you're at 7. Now you feel comfortable, don't you? It's like, yes, I do. So if I was going to pick any of the events that they've been bouncing me around to, I'd have to say the rugby sevens. That's got to be up towards the top. I'm liking I like the mountain biking, and one of the more unusual ones is that I wouldn't have thought of, but I was really getting into the fencing. I think it was because there was a woman from USA that had a big upset. I think it was a 9 seed over a 1 seed, and then it was leading up, and it ended up being an American versus an American for the gold medal. So it was an automatic. We're going to win 2 medals there. So I think it had more to do with the American part of it, but just you start watching some of these sports, and it's not like you know all of the rules like you normally do for sports, and you just have to kind of figure it out. And I don't know. I like that, hey, how does this work? And, in 2 minutes, or maybe not quite 2 minutes, but in 20 minutes, all of a sudden you think you're close to an expert.
Look, I like everything you said. I've been watching all of it. Rugby's been great. And the downhill mountain biking, I can't even imagine doing anything. Like, all right, we're going to do a mountain bike. You just need to make it down the mountain. Also, we're going to make it a race. Like, that's just like, what? It's not just getting down all of this, getting down the obstacles. That's wild. There is
and
something...
not even time trials. You are racing, so you have to be concerned about people trying to pass you, and there are other riders around you.
I think with some of the sports, and perhaps maybe fencing isn't the best example, but I'd say with like the horses, like the equestrian sort of stuff, and this is also like across all of the Olympics, everybody's good, right? There's rarely, you're not going to see anybody be like, oh, that's bad. Like, so you're seeing such a high level of everything that I think a lot of it almost looks the same. And it's hard to pick out. Well, it's nitpicking so hard of like that. Well, that's the difference. It's like, well, really, that's a big deal. It's like I almost wish I could see more qualifier events to kind of get an idea of being like, oh, that's what struggling at this looks like, because everyone right now looks really, really good at everything, and I can't really find what the difference is between one and another. The fencing is so fast. I think that's my hard thing about it.
Super fast.
it's like you blinked first and I blinked half a second later, and that's how I lost. It was just that. It's a guessing game of left and right, and it's over immediately. And I didn't like how
I
quick it is. I need a little bit more anticipation. Like with the swimming, I have no interest in learning how to swim or being a competitive swimmer like anyone in any of these competitions, but my heart rate goes up every time the race is on, and it's like, oh man, I'm just seeing the lines and the graphic animations they have in all of the lanes. It just gets me excited, and everything comes down to, the turns and then the finish, and then if it's a relay, like the timings of when you take off. I'm just into the intensity of all that, and everybody looks so exhausted at the end of it that it's like, wow, that's what this is about. This is crazy. This is challenging so many efforts of everybody across the whole world here, and it's all happening so fast, and it happens too fast in fencing. And I think swimming's kind of got it down right, where it's like these little buildups of segments, and it's over quick, and you kind of, I feel like, are watching a lot of pregame for the swimming, and then once it happens, it's like, oh man, we're in. Like this, like when you catch it live, it's really exciting. So like I get all of that. I just, some of it I feel like everyone's too good, and some of it I think is a little too laid back, or maybe I'm just not as educated in some of the sports. Like the ping pong, I can't tell you which one is bad and which one's good, but it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. It seems like everybody's pretty good, and it's like such a minuscule mistake that is the difference between all of this. What I've enjoyed the most out of all of it is probably the handball. I really like handball. I like how physical it is. I like that it's kind of like basketball, and it's just, I like seeing these sort of athletes out there, and I like how physical it is, and they're just winging it out there and tackling each other. I mean, water polo is probably the most aggressive thing I've seen, but I like the athletes in handball, and I like the athletes in both the team volleyball and the beach volleyball. Just the size, the power again, the team effort, the coordination. The 2-on-2 beach is just, it's insane. I don't understand how people are able to do it. You shouldn't be able to cover that type of ground, and the anticipation is just so good.
And there's no subs.
No, there's no nothing.
There's no subs. You're out there and you're playing, and you have to be ready the whole time. And those matches are not exactly short.
No, the team one is great too. Just watching everybody jump so high. I think the net should be higher for the men's. They're all just 7 feet jumping 40 inches. I think the net should be higher. Is that a bad take?
That's an interesting take. I think people like the like the slams and the spikes trying to make happen, but I did not mention handball. Just the way like the gold zone works, it's just you're kind of all over the place, and depending on what part of the day that you hop in. So I really haven't caught too much of the handball, but that's always one of my favorites. And actually found some stats yesterday. Handball is one of 5 sports that the United States has never medaled in, and I was talking with one of our top listeners, Sean, and we were both saying, like, I just don't get how handball isn't more popular in the United States. You don't need extra equipment, so I use something like hockey. It's like, okay, you need ice, you need a stick, you need all the protective equipment. Like, there's a lot. Football, there's a lot of equipment that you need to do it. But like with handball, it seems like it's in the same sort of size as like a basketball court. I mean, you do have to have a goal, but that seems relatively easy enough. And there's a a ring that says you can't go in that area to shoot. But it seems even just had cones. You could set this up and be playing this, and just it seems like the rules are relatively simple. It kind of all right, you can be physical, but you can't go over like a certain line, and it just seems very intuitive. But we don't even have a team that makes the Olympics. Not even like, oh, we're in it and we're just not very good. Like we're not even in that stratosphere. And just out of all the sports, that's the one that jumps out to me. That just seems like we could be more competitive if there was even just a little bit of interest.
I think we need more access to gyms inside. There's not enough indoor gym access for everyone, because I don't think this can work.
Let's talk about every high school has an indoor gym.
Yeah, and it's being used for how many other events constantly throughout the day? They're doing gymnastics in there. They're doing events. They're doing voting. They're doing basketball. It's gym classes. It's being occupied with so many other things. I've played handball, and it's been in gym classes. The only time we played. We played on a basketball court. I kind of think it has to be played inside, to the way that you're pretty reckless with all the shots, and that if you miss one on grass, it's just that ball's gone. You're going to be chasing the ball the whole time. So I don't think it's quite as simple as just propping up cones at the park and just playing outside. I think it kind of needs to be inside with like a back wall, and I just don't think everyone has the
I'm
same
saying
gym access
I
to
think
do
it's
it.
very doable. The barrier to entry is not nearly as high as some of the other sports.
I think getting indoor court play across the country is not easy. I mean, I think seasonally it's limited.
We got people playing hockey that requires like a building that's cold enough to sustain ice.
And that
I'm
and
not saying like it's the easiest thing, but I'm saying that it compared to these other sports, I mean, we're gonna get a pool. How many pools are there in the country? But we got world class Olympic gold medaling swimmers.
I just think pools are used for pool activities, and the basketball thing is used for a million other activities. There's too many other uses for it. And we need more courts. We need more access to it.
And that the pickleball is or not pickleball. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
pickleball's not
pickleball.
going to be helping. Yeah, because that's going to be taking over more of the courts. Yeah, I think we need less pickleball and more handball.
That'd be fun.
Make America athletic again.
I'll tell you the problem with pickup handball already though is the whole call your own fouls. Because even the professionals of what I'm watching, it's like it's a pretty gray area of what's okay
But
sometimes
don't
and
you
not
think?
okay.
You do call your own fouls in basketball,
I think it's a little
and
bit
I would
more
say
physical in handball. I think it's just
you think it's a little more physical. That would be a problem. I could see that.
well. The thing is,
You're right because it is a little tougher.
if you take away that physicality too, I think you're taking away the ability to play defense because it's kind of like you have to get physical with the guy to adjust the shot.
Yeah, you have to have some physicality, or otherwise it's just going to be open season on the goalie.
I also think guys are. It's going to be like lacrosse or hockey where guys just rip shots recklessly and they're just throwing their shoulder out trying to crank shots in handball and they're going to follow through into someone's face and it's like, well, that wouldn't have happened in the pros because they're good enough to know, kind of where their follow through is going. But in pickup, you're gonna get hit with the backswing. You're gonna get punched with someone. It's just nobody knows what they're doing or how to get in the way or out of the way. I like it though. And I like that it's popular everywhere else but here. I feel like if you went to another country, you'd have a better chance of saying, "Hey man, these guys are playing pickup handball right now. Nobody's shooting around. They're playing handball. Like there's a basketball court here and they're playing handball inside." I think you'd have a better chance running into that. Any other events you had written down here? What else have you liked?
Swimming really hasn't done it for me so far this year. It was a lot of fun. I caught live. I think it was the 100-meter medley. I think it's just there's so many swimming events. Just keeping up with with all of it, and you got like the same athletes repeatedly. But it was cool watching live. It was I can't remember the guy's name, but the French guy that won. I think it was the 100-meter medley, in France, and just coming out. He was the favorite. He capitalized. He absolutely destroyed the field, and you could just tell how excited the crowd was and how plugged in the crowd was. Where there wasn't a constant cheer because he's going under the water, so they just cheer when his head would bop up. So it was like a unique sort of cheer where it was like ah. And I don't know. I thought that was fun and it was unique.
There's like almost too much to talk about. I mean, I'm not here. I'm not going to talk about tennis, but I like watching tennis. So just having it and all the guys, everyone's participating in it. Like I saw Nadal lose to Djokovic earlier today, and that wasn't even like a big deal in the day. Like that's just crazy that there's so much sports going on. And that's Coco played the other day. I like it. I watched a little bit of skateboarding. It falls a little bit too much into the background where I kind of lose the attention span on it. But I do like skateboarding. It's just fun to have in the background, especially any of the street where they're just coming up with their own combinations and somebody tries to do something crazy and it either works out or completely sabotages their entire run. I like the skateboarding.
Do you think the Olympics need to be longer? I felt like there were so many events going on that like I couldn't even be close to keeping up with everything.
I don't think you're supposed to be able to keep up with anything. I think that's a crazy like football thing where it's like we're gonna put you just enough that you can keep track of. And I don't think there's any way you can.
You're probably right, and I think I just never realized how much I was missing. But now with the Gold Zone and with Peacock having every single event at your fingertips, whatever you want to watch, you can watch. Just realizing, there are, there's a soccer, there's a rugby. Those games are going on. Those are a little bit longer, and just all the things that are all going on simultaneously. And then you have the surfing, which is in a completely different location. And so that is the timing is totally different. I think that's something that has been very advantageous, at least for me here on the East Coast, is the 6 hour difference. So you wake up on Sunday, you just turn it on, and just throughout the day, you can just kind of graze on it all day long. Sometimes when it's farther, when it was in Russia for the winter, a while back, and it's closer to what was it, like a 10, like a 9 or 10 hour difference. It's just that overlap where this is perfect. It's not interacting with any of the other sports that are going on.
I do think the reruns will always endlessly be confusing, where the primetime slot, because it's obviously not live with the difference right now, but whatever the 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock showing on the NBC, or I think it's on E and it's on CNBC, I think is the other channels, USA. I think the rerun of the main event from earlier will always be confusing because I'll be watching and being like, I don't know, I saw this. And it's like, this is the main thing they're showing right now. It's like, well, I guess so. There's nothing else live on right now.
It was on at 10 a.m. this morning, and other people were doing adult things and out of the house. They weren't in front of the TV, and now this is the more prime time for everybody else.
But I don't think they can make it longer because there needs to be some civility to giving these people their city back. I mean, there's just a monstrous amount of people, a large amount of people just showed up and are just doing whatever they want for a couple of weeks here, and then they're all just going to pack up and leave. I don't think you could just extend that on.
That's true. I didn't really think about that.
I mean, it's not happening in any of our towns anytime soon. They're not coming to our city, but like if they were, just imagine like this.
Well, no, that's not. Well, I guess you depend on what you mean by our city, but L.A. is the next one in 2028.
Yeah, we don't live in L.A. Like we're not gonna care if there's
you said one of our cities, so I didn't know if that meant an American city, because that was gonna be my follow up, where France is a little harder to get to, but LA you could get to. You've lived in Southern California with these Olympics. Would that be something you'd be interested in going to, or more based off of, hey, there's just so many people here? Is this just like your absolute nightmare of too many people?
I think I would go if it was in the States. Like I think I would do it in LA. I would hate it. I wouldn't like it, but I think I would hate it even more if that is how I was experiencing France. Like if I'm going to go to France, I want to have a regular tourist trip. I don't need to have this crazy event where it's never like this and it's as busy as it's ever been. You're never going to get into any reservation, get in anywhere or anything, and everybody's just way more crowded doing everything you're supposed to be doing in France. And I'm sure there's already a high tourism, but there's nothing quite like this where there's too many people in one area at once. So I wouldn't want it to be my introduction to any country visit, but my own country in LA that I've already been to, I see a little bit more of an appeal of it, of like, hey, all these awesome athletes, all these events we just talked about for the last, 20 minutes here, are all here. They're coming to your country. They're coming here right now. And I don't know how the ticket gamble quite works, but I think it would be fun to go to. I think I would still rather go to like an NBA Finals game over something like this, but I could definitely see an appeal in all this. I mean, who doesn't want to get behind USA anything? It's just fun. It's like, hey, we get to all be on the same side, all right? The second this all ends, we can all go back to, dividing each other up into how many pieces. But for whatever moment that this is in right now, we're all together, and I kind of like that feeling, and I could see that being fun to see live. Are you making trips?
I get the nationalism and the patriotism all wrapped up watching it, where it's an event I know nothing about. It's an athlete I never heard about, but wearing the red, white, and blue. It's all right. Here we go. Let's lock in. This brand new person. You are now my best friend, and I want you to win more than anything else right now. Let's go. Let's get a W.
We're very successful, but there are events, I'm not going to name names, but where we're clearly not the favorite in there, and it's like, no, I like being the underdog. Like, this is just awesome. Like, if we have any chance at all, we just need something. Just need the other guy to mess up. Just something else to go wrong here, and then we can just slide the American right in there. Just no problem at all. All right, I think we've held out long enough. I told you we had to get as much as we could out of the Olympics before we talked about the Olympic basketball, specifically USA basketball. USA basketball defeated Serbia just this past Sunday, 110-84. Jokic had a pretty solid game. Bogdanovic, I thought, was decent. I think he could have played a little bit better. But, Jokic finished with 20 points, 31 minutes, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, and 4 steals. And that's not even the highlight of anything of all this. USA wins. We shoot 62%. 56% from 3. LeBron has a good game. Durant has a good game. And the only headline that I think anybody on this podcast is going to care about is that Jason Tatum played 0 minutes and was healthy. Halliburton also didn't play any minutes. The next player to play the least amount of minutes was Joel Embiid, who only played 11. I know you got beef with all of this. Is there anything you want to say about the game before we get into the Tatum stuff?
Uh, Again, our starting lineup, it just sleepwalking to start. Got smacked right in the mouth, and just took a while to figure out. Like, okay, let's play basketball. Let's do that thing that you guys are all really good at. But this happened in the showcase games where we just didn't come out, with any sort of intensity. A lot of turnovers again, but it ended up being 26 points. But this game was, it wasn't close, but at halftime, what was it? It was like 8 points, at the half, and then I feel like in the second half we kind of got a decent lead. We were somewhere, I think, kind of between, maybe 12 to 18, and then right towards the end was able to push it. That Curry just super deep three, didn't need it at all, but just at the very end was just it's always fun. He had one in the first quarter where just peak Curry of he's running, does like a 180 to get the ball, is not looking at the hoop, but still is able to square up just enough, and a guy is right in his face, draped all over him, and still just splashes it right in. So just he's still that's still so much fun. And Embiid has not improved from the from the showcase games. I don't know if it's still not in shape at this point. I mean, at some point, it's like how can you not be in enough shape to do this? So I was glad to to see that even though we started, and I think there's politics involved, that we played the least amount of minutes, because like at a certain point, like this has to get changed. I was a fan that we did not do the whole platoon system like we were doing in the showcase games. It was actual trying to do rotations, trying to get guys playing together. And then I guess the last part to like really wrap it up is Kevin Durant, still very good at basketball. You said you didn't want him on the team, you wanted him replaced. I said I think we should keep him around. I think he's still pretty good. And then where did he go? He started 8 for 8. Just like I feel like they weren't respecting him, where he's got the ball at the top of the key and they're playing off of him, and he just said, "Oh, okay, well, I'll take an open three if you're going to give it to me," and which is cool to see. I'm sure with him not being able to play those showcase games, he wanted to play. It seemed like he was close, but you would have thought, well, if he's close, but one of the is he the all-time leading scorer, or he's going to be the all-time leading scorer? It's fun to watch Durant be good at basketball.
Well, I'm shocked to hear you say that. Durant ends up with 23 points in 17 minutes. He's 8 for 9, 5 for 5 from 3. Basically just doesn't even miss. LeBron was the leading scorer, or the other leading scorer, with 21 points in 27 minutes, 9 assists and 7 rebounds. I'd say they were the main two guys that you just scoring buckets, getting the job done. I mean, we shoot 62%, and we're 56% from 3. We took way more threes, 18 to 32 in this game. That I don't know what to nitpick out of all of this. Sure, Embiid wasn't great. He only played 11 minutes. He had 4 points, two rebounds, and 1 block. He only played 11 minutes. If you're not feeling it, you're not in shape, you're not great. That's fine. That's 11 minutes. I mean, you want to take away more minutes? Like who are the minutes that you want to take away from to get Tatum into this mix, outside of Durant, who again was near perfect in all of this? I think it's a little hurtful that Derek White played and actually played well. He had an incredible block. Once again, leading guard block in the league. You'd say that's sad.
Quite possibly the best blocking guard in the Olympics. Quite possibly. I'm going to keep doing my research, but maybe. I'm putting him on. He's on watch right now.
So, it's hard. I think it's harder to make this team than it is for this USA team to win gold. So, it's like Tatum did the hard part of making the team and being qualified enough to get on it. It's hard to break the minutes here. I'm sure he'll get some run going forward. I was a little shocked for it, but when you look at it and you look at how everyone else has played, I mean, him and Booker, I think, have been going every other and starting and not starting. But Booker had a good game. Booker made some shots earlier on in the game, and if he hadn't made those shots, and if Durant hadn't made any shots coming off the bench, I think that's when you look into the next option of Tatum. What I'm curious about is this the right sort of totem pole of players that we're doing right now, where he's kind of the odd man out? Like, could you make an argument? No,
it is absolutely not the guy to not play. 0 minutes. That is so disrespectful. There is some sort of weird politics going on, and I am still flabbergasted that this happened. It's been an absolute field day on social media, making all sorts of Jason Tatum jokes, where this guy just led a team to a championship last month. Last month, Celtics, world champions. All these Americans, every single one. Only Tatum was all NBA first team this year. You can say, okay, Durant was a little hurt. All right, LeBron's team wasn't very good. All right, well, Anthony Davis, he was pretty healthy all year. No, he wasn't first team. Tatum was first team. 0 minutes. You can't find a single minute for a guy in the best league in the world was in the top 5. All the other guys are all international players. Tatum was the only American, and you can't find a single minute for him. And I say it is political because immediately after the game, knew it was going to be a talking point. I thought, especially going into the second half, that, all right, he's sick. He must be sick. There must be something going on. This doesn't make any sense. He started one of the showcase games. How do you go from starting to then there's just, oh, no, how could we ever play this guy? I don't know. But immediately afterwards, Kurz asked questions that said, hey, what's what was going on with Tatum? And said, oh, well, we talked to him before the game. We said, with Durant coming back in, this was something that might happen. And Tatum handled it really well. And then, then it comes out, Tatum says, no, they asked, oh, were you sick? Were you hurt? Nope, all good. Okay, so this was a complete coach's decision. Then hours later, when I really think this went straight to the top of the basketball universe. I think Coach K called Coach Kerr and said, what in the world? You cannot do this to my guy. And then all of a sudden Kerr's coming and said, oh, I feel like such an idiot. I didn't play Tatum. Oh, man. Like his whole narrative changed. So then also part of that said, oh, yeah, no, he's going to play on Wednesday. He's going to play versus South Sudan. So clearly, some phone calls were made. Stuff was exchanged.
This is based on nothing. This is nonsense.
He didn't play a single minute is absolutely ridiculous.
All right, well, take away the minutes. Who do you want to take away from? You can't just say all this and not take it away from someone.
Embiid, we can't take too many minutes away from.
He only played 11 minutes. It's the least amount of minutes.
You can't really take it away from Embiid, and Embiid's got this whole like Coach Cal, like, hey, promised you're going to be a starter if you come to my school. Like, we have to start him. I think there's just some like I said, it's all politics. Booker had a great game, but before this, he was not playing nearly at this level. Weren't sure what to expect out of Durant. How do we know if Tatum had played? How do we know that he's not gonna not miss a shot? Because he didn't get any time. He didn't get any chances. I would have taken time away from Derek White, and I'd take away time from Bam. I'd definitely take more time away from Edwards. He just does not pass. He's fun to watch, but I think if you're looking for guys that are able to create or to be able to shoot, to create their own shot, and as well as help out other guys, I would have given him some of Edwards' minutes. But the other thing, that was another thing that Kerr said in his first interview, not the second interview when he kind of did a 180, is he said, I wasn't really exactly sure, these lineups and how they would fit, all together. Oh, you know what would really fit well together? Putting all 3 Celtics that just won a championship together. They know how to play together. Oh, all right. Well, what if, we don't want to go out with Derek White. All right, cool. What if you put Tatum with Drew and Durant like they did at the last Olympics? This makes no sense. It's like I'm coming off like I'm the conspiracy theorist here, but I just don't see how an all NBA player there are 0 minutes for the guy all of a sudden.
Are you mad?
Are you mad? Can't explain it.
Are you mad that we didn't play the 11th and 12th man, or are you mad that Tatum is the 11th and 12th man?
I just don't see how.
Because your argument is that we should play a whole rotation.
Any basketball team you assemble, that Tatum is the 11th or 12th man on it. I refuse to believe that right now. He is in his prime. He just showed it. He was just guarding bigs not that long ago. So if you needed that, he's like very versatile. It's not he's just like this one trick pony. It's not like a James Harden situation where it's okay. He just knows the NBA rules so well, and he's just able to get to his spots, and it's just he can't play any defense, and we really need defense. Tatum is a bona fide two-way guy, and like I said, I think there's some politics going on. I think there's something NBA related, and I'm just flagging it because I'm trying to come up with a better reason, and I just don't think he fit. That just doesn't fly with me.
Outside of LeBron, Tatum is easily the worst three-point shooter on the team. It's not even close, especially for spot-up shooting. So, like, really, you would just bench LeBron and you would bench Durant, but he's not the same shooter as either of those guys. That's why he's not playing. That's it right there. That's why.
Well, all right. So what are we talking about? Olympics three-point shooting, or are we talking about NBA three-point shooting? Because the line is closer.
All right. Well,
so
he didn't shoot
more of them.
He's not shooting very well, regardless. I would still take spot up shooting from one of the other guys that did play and did take threes this game. The only guy I had problems with it is Embiid, but he only played 11 minutes, and I think that's kind of around where he should play in matchups where we don't need him against massive other teams. Like, there's going to be a matchup with Wemby and Gobert where I think the Embiid thing is going to make a lot of sense, and we're going to be happy we had him. And it's fine. I mean, look, I get all the arguments for it. All right, he's a champion most recently. He's the only guy that made All NBA, like you said. He's made it 3 times. It's not like this is a fluke of him doing all of this. I don't think he's as good of a three-point shooter as the guys that did play. And I understand why you would play Durant over him. I mean, that was the only reason I think he played in the other games was because Durant was injured. And Durant's healthy now, and we brought him in. I tried to get him off the team. I tried to prevent this, all right? We could have had Jaylen Brown there, and he could have kept Tatum, company on the bench the whole time. It would have been great. They could have been together. Watching Drew Holiday and Derek White play over them. It really would have been great. I think that would have been the real solution here. Is to get Jaylen on this team so they can hang out on the end of the bench there. Get some good pictures, do some more social media. I mean, at this point, do you think he regrets even being on the team? He could have had a Jaylen summer. He went to the ESPYs, had a nice date, and and just relaxed all summer. Instead, he's over here and he's taking all of this. Is this even worth it? Maybe you should be reconsidering joining this team. Unless you think you're definitely a top.
I think it's a squeaky wheel gets the grease sort of situation. In the past week, Embiid was already on a podcast saying he would have been the best, but if he and he veiled critique at Tatum said if I went 5 for 20 my team would lose, and just okay, this seems to be coming out of nowhere. But why would Tatum not play this game but play the next game if it was purely basketball?
Because it's not purely basketball at this point. Now he has to play him just to avoid all of this. But if you ask me whether or not he deserved to play, I thought Kerr had the right the first game to not play him at all. Look at how everyone else played. They won. They played well. I'm sure the start of it wasn't great and it was slow, and I think it had a lot to do with how slow Embiid is. But, again, he only played 11 minutes. So, they already corrected that. If the correction was going to take Embiid out and put Tatum in, I could understand that. But, when Edwards comes in and doesn't miss and Durant comes in and doesn't miss, and I think they really love, and we agreed that we loved, the Bam and Davis combination of just suffering everyone's bigs. Defensively, that's unstoppable. You put any of the other guys around there. Drew and White, I think, are just glue players that are a little bit better glue players than Tatum is. So that's why you're putting them in there. You're asking, why did we pick LeBron over Tatum? And it's well, it's LeBron. Why did we pick Durant over Tatum? Well, it's Durant.
You can look at these guys. There's a reason that these guys only either made it or didn't even make it to the playoffs, and then flamed out very early on. And there's other guys that did not.
Everybody's really good on this team. They're going to win by 100 every game. I don't think this is ever going to matter.
No, we're not. We just in the showcase we showed we're not going to win by 100 points every game.
It's not going to make the difference. We wouldn't have won by more points if we played Tatum. Otherwise, you'd be making that argument right now, and you can't because you wouldn't.
It's 26 points, man. That's a lot of points. So, we could win by 40. That at a certain point, you let off the gas, and you're not going to try to embarrass a team.
So what's the difference here? What are we arguing about then? All right, we played the right guys then. We won by 26.
I'm telling you, this is a political thing that they're trying to get under the Celtics' skin. They're doing this on purpose. They're trying to embarrass the Celtics.
I don't understand that. I don't. Only Celtics fans are making that argument, and it's. I don't see the
Yeah, because the other argument, or not argument, it's because everybody else is making jokes. That's what all the Knicks fans are doing. Haha, look at Tatum. He doesn't even play.
I
Hey,
don't
just a bench warmer.
I don't
Haha,
see
look at Tatum's stats. Look at Tatum's stats today. Look at his highlights. Ha ha ha.
you act like they took away the championship from him. Like he didn't just do that. They didn't take it away.
I
He
think
still
it's
has it.
disrespectful to create a basketball team and then to not play Tatum. If you played him, a handful, of minutes, okay, all right, then I could maybe go with this argument. Oh well, it's really hard, and finding minutes. Embiid has been terrible every game, every step of the way. That's not just been me. I've tried.
His minutes
I've
are
tried
going down every game. I don't know what else you want him to do. You want him to
that-
take away all of that? There's 11 minutes from Tatum.
Yes.
They're all
Yes.
gone. All right. Well, why did
Yes.
it take so long for you to just say that now? Because you're scared to take a shot at any of the other players that played because they all
because
played
it's
really
political.
well.
It's political. He's going to go to France, and then they're going to have like a whole bunch of tall guys next time around. Because I'm trying also not to like come off as like, oh, biased Celtics fan. Of course you don't like Embiid. He plays for the Sixers.
I'm going to tell you
But
this.
I tried to hold off for as long as I could, and so
Honestly,
that's the thing. If you're going to make the argument that there's not enough minutes to go around, well, then you can't also go and say, well, except for Embiid, like he gets to try some things out.
I mean this in the nicest way possible. If you think you were trying to come off as the not biased Celtics fan, you've already failed. Right? I appreciate you trying, but I don't think you succeeded. You didn't succeed at it.
And
Don't do
this.
this. You're the homer right now, crying about it as if we just lost the championship. You know what the important part about all of this is? It's going to get you back into all of this. This is going to zone you in that the NBA is way more important. All right, nobody is ever bringing up the Olympic thing on the resume right now. You're acting like this is a missing piece that he needs to have. He doesn't need this at all. He made the team. He'll get the gold. It'll go at the very bottom of the second page of his resume. All right, nobody's going to look at him differently based on this at all. It shouldn't matter that much. I'm sorry your feelings got hurt by the best players in the NBA all competing for limited minutes in a shorter game with excellence all the way around them. All right, this isn't something to be that upset about. He's on the team. He'll get a chance in other games. He'll have his moment. It's going to happen to someone else next game, and we're going to say the same things, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. He's on the team. He should be happy he's on the team. Doesn't need to be anything more than that.
I think that other fan bases would be having the exact same conversation if it was their player that made the Olympics team that all of a sudden just didn't get to play. Coach's decision out of nowhere.
I think you're surrounded by too many Knicks fans who are unincluded in all this and have dominated the offseason with a whole bunch of unproven futuristic promises. All right, they need to show us what they're going to be to even have any say at all of this. They didn't invite Brunson. He wasn't even the backup. They still brought in White, who was the backup on the Celtics, not any of the Knicks. All right, they could have picked a lot of other Knicks too. They didn't pick any of them. So I think you're surrounded by too many Knicks fans that are talking about high expectations for the first time in a long time.
It's got nothing to do with the Knicks fans. I'm telling you, it doesn't make any sense that why did the interviews change hours after each other? From
I think,
oh no, this was the plan, this was all discussed, to oh I'm an idiot, I really should have played him. Oh, what was I thinking? And not starting the super tall guy with the elite guard skills.
I think you're you just have this conspiracy tinfoil hat on right now, analyzing post game interviews as if these are facts as well. All right, they have to go out there and do it. All right, they're gonna steer it however way they want to steer it. It's not. It's just you would have went up there and done the same thing. I don't think it's anything like that injustice. I don't think Tatum's been wronged here. I unless I saw a player on the roster that didn't look like he played well and that Tatum would have played better, then I'd make that argument. But I don't think you have that argument, at least after his first game. Let's see going forward. I mean, if we lost and Tatum didn't play anything, I bet you'd feel great and be like, wow, they really screwed up. You know, they really.
No, I wouldn't feel great. I want America to go undefeated. I want them to beat every team
you would
by a
rather
bunch of points.
You would rather Tatum look like the hero than USA win the gold, right?
You're absolutely wrong. He was never going to be the hero on this team, but not playing the guy and just sitting him on the bench the whole time. That it doesn't make any sense. And now, is he going to start? On Wednesday, or like how many minutes does he get now? It's just weird. It's just weird, this whole thing, and there's weird political stuff going on, and
it's not politics. It's it's competition. They're competing for minutes. They all practice together. He had a chance to fight for it. He didn't get it.
So it's basketball. It's basketball reasons that Embiid is starting and Anthony Davis is coming off the bench.
I think so.
That's basketball. You've watched all of these games. You've watched all their careers, and you think it's just completely basketball related that Embiid starts, and then Anthony Davis comes in.
I mean, Davis and Bam. Bam played 20. Davis played 19. And again, Embiid played 11. So you make it a big deal. Like it's just the starting stature. That's all you want. Tatum can play 5 minutes then. He'll start the first 2.5 minutes of the first game and the first 2.5 minutes of the second half, and that's it. He'll be done. But then he's a starter. Then you get your little stature thing. Are you happy then? It's like, what are you arguing about here?
I want him to play in the basketball game. That's what I want him to do. Whether it's starting, coming off the bench, wherever it is, he is a good enough basketball player on this team to have minutes. And that's what I'm saying.
He'll have a chance going forward to do it. I don't think he's done enough to prove to get into this game. I don't think he would have
if people like me didn't stand up and say something and say, Kerr, what are you doing? Do you feel like an idiot that you didn't play a top 5 player in the NBA?
Why would he feel like an idiot when he won by 26? What coach is like, oh, man, we're really bad at our jobs. We're so bad.
I feel like an idiot. Steve Kerr. That's not my words. Those are his words. That's a quote from him.
Those aren't real. Those are just post-game things. They have to say this stuff. They're just calming down the crazy people. You're sounding like one of them right now. It's not that big of a deal. We didn't lose the game. We won the game. I don't know. You wanted to win it by more with him? I don't understand it. This isn't a participation trophy. He gets a medal whether he plays or not. All right, there's your participation trophy. He's got to play minutes too. I mean, how much of a diva are you? This expectations of like he has to play because he deserves to play. It's like no, the coach has the right to play whoever he wants to play. I don't know any other rotation that plays the 12th and 11th man. It's not unusual to only play 10. It makes their life way easier. I don't know what you wanted to make it such a struggle and a fairness in all this that we have to play 6 minutes with every player so that everybody's even.
It's not fairness. It is not fairness. Fairness is like that's not the Olympics. That's not sports. That's really, I guess, like, youth sports. It's not a fairness. It's I think that he is better than the guys that were out there playing, and he could have contributed more. That he has shown that he is better. He has shown that he deserves more. He has won the awards that show that. This year, this isn't past awards. Obviously, LeBron, Durant, Steph, they all have more awards. They have more longevity. So, I mean, if you're going to go off of that, but at this moment in time, right now, I think that's what you're going to do. Is like in 10 years, you're going to look back, and I think it's going to look really weird that there was just you just didn't play Tatum. Wait, wasn't that the year he won the championship? What was going on there? And you're going to have to do a deep dive to figure it out. How did he play more in the Olympics 3 years ago? It's confusing.
I think it'll be bottom of the second or third page of his resume. You're never going to look at this again. Nobody's ever going to factor this in. That you're acting like that story is going to break in 4 more years for the next Olympics. Like, hey, you remember when Tatum, won back-to-back championships and then didn't play in the Olympics, but he was on the team? It's like, yeah, remember when Curry didn't play at all for his whole career and just played this one time? Nobody's going to be talking about that.
He had injuries. He was never on the team.
Yeah,
but he wasn't on the team, and they just said, I don't know if Steph Curry fits in here. I don't know if he could figure it out on the basketball court with these guys. It's like that's a ridiculous thing to say. That's the same thing. It's a ridiculous thing to say about Tatum. Oh, I don't know if he could figure it out there with those guys.
Until someone starts to really struggle, I don't see the argument for playing him over the guys that did play.
All right.
They didn't look like the guys you described in the regular season. They didn't look like that in the game. All right, and they have 4 days off before the next game, and then 4 more days off for the next. There's just no excuses here. There's no back-to-backs.
Well, no, they don't have that many days off. The game is yesterday. Next game is Wednesday.
It's more than a back-to-back. I'm saying it's not like Embiid doesn't do back-to-back, so Tatum will play more on the second end. Like it's not like that at all.
I see what you're saying.
I'm saying
where it was like, okay, Durant's gonna play one of 2 back-to-backs. Oh no, there's time in between.
So you're not gonna get that sort of advantage either. I think the things we held against these guys is they don't do that anymore in the regular season. LeBron's not doing back-to-backs. Davis isn't doing back-to-backs.
You know who does do back-to-backs? You know who's healthy all the time, always ready to go? We'll see if you can figure it out.
You're not listening to the advantage that doesn't give you in the Olympics because that doesn't happen. You don't need that. This is an unnecessary skill that isn't coming in handy right now, and it is coming in handy that we can play these guys that aren't capable of playing back-to-backs every game now. This is an advantage that we don't need that you only need in the NBA.
The best league in the world.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back to it because this is nonsense. All right, we talked about this more than enough.
Yeah, you said it's nonsense. I want the listeners to know that the way that this all started was, well, one, because of what happened yesterday and it was ridiculous, but what really just put me all the way to the top. And I've warned everyone before that I'm a pretty rational guy most of the time. But when Duke basketball gets involved, and then it's on double on top of this, so you got Jason Tatum, it's Duke and the Celtics all wrapped into one, and I was ready to go, and I had some thoughts, and I had my conspiracy theories, but it was really this morning. I hadn't even like really like woken up fully, and we're talking about the podcast a little bit, and Will threw a jab at me suggesting that maybe Tatum should go join the volleyball team. And that's where I just knew. I just knew I was not going to be rational. I was not going to be able to keep it together, but I was not going to waste it on text messages, and I saved it for the podcast. And I think I got it all out now. We'll see what happens on Wednesday.
I can't wait for it to compound. I can't wait to see like Tatum just taking jump shots, warming up, and then playing no minutes. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be the best storyline of the summer. I think I could get you pissed off for the next 4 weeks over this. Like just continuously, we can just run it back over and over again.
It'll probably be more than 4 weeks because by then football will have started, and then it will be reminded that, oh man, that's right, Tom Brady is not our quarterback anymore, and it's still another month and a half until basketball actually starts. And yeah, you could probably stoke the fire a whole bunch. I'm just hoping, we win the Olympics, take care of that, bing bang boom, no problem, and then we've already got Jalen is already raring to go. So if we could just combine that with Tatum and to have that Michael Jordan just creating reasons why you're upset that may or may not be all the way true. And now our two top guys, even coming off winning the championship, are more upset than they were this year. I can get on board with that.
I think you're disrespecting the two role players that are about to lead Team USA to gold. And
my thoughts on Drew Holiday and Derek White are very well known. You tease me all the time about how I say Derek White is the best guard at blocking shots, and I stick by that. And like I said, we'll see. Possibly in the Olympics, I'll keep an eye on it. But man, he just absolutely erased that guy at the rim. Oh, speaking of adjacent to this, Dwayne Wade. He's doing the announcing with Ian Eagle. Ian Eagle, well known. Dwayne Wade, obviously a well-known basketball player. Not sure as well known as a broadcaster, but he was kind of hit or miss. I had some issues, but overall was fine with it. But the main problem that I had was he was talking about Derek White and said, Derek White, yeah, he's pretty good, but what's his vertical? Got to be what, like 15, 20 inches, probably somewhere in there. Oh yeah. Well, you got to be careful when you make comments like that. Yeah, you go and look at the verts. Dwayne Wade's was 35 at the combine. Derek White's was 35 and a half. So, what were your thoughts on Dwayne Wade and Ian Eagle?
I didn't really love Wade in the TNT halftime setting, but I kind of liked him doing the games and all this. And I like that he's calling LeBron games because that's just funny and ironic in so many different ways because they're the same class. These are like that's LeBron's, league best friend. I'd say like his true brother of the league, who's been retired now for years, and it is calling the games for LeBron, who is still playing. I just think there's something neat in that maybe won't carry over in the long run once we get through these Olympics. But for this one, for now, what we're doing, I kind of like there's a little excitement with it. He's looking for a reason to be excited about it, and I like that. There's a college basketball energy for it where we're just looking to be ambitious in something. We're looking to make some noise for something, and I like what he's reaching for in it, and I think there's going to be a lot of plays that are going to give him that and that he's going to be just fine for. He's going to get tied up with some of this, all right? I'm already impressed with like Scott Hansen knowing foreign names and foreign sports and being familiar with other teams and all that. Like that's not easy to do. Even if Wade had put the work in for all that, like you're still going to make mistakes here and there. There's a large amount of players just being thrown at you that are not in the NBA that you're just trying to become familiar with in a couple of weeks. And then it all goes away and you never need to know any of those names again. So like, I think he'll be fine. I don't have any problems with it. Obviously Eagles fantastic. I'm never going to be against that. And I think
he's an absolute pro. When you hear it and it just, lines up with basketball. It's a weird thing to say, but I thought there was too much giggling. They were just like cracking each other up, And by the end of the fourth quarter, it's a blowout. Then you go into the stories, but I thought like a little too early they were going into Dwayne Wade stories from his Heat days and his time with the Olympic team, and it's like, all right, I get it. You have this resource that another announcer wouldn't have, but we got off to that slow start, and I just wanted to. Could you tell me more about the basketball that's happening? Could you tell me more what you're seeing on why this isn't working, and a little less of the hey, this is just a exhibition. Doesn't matter. Where obviously second half, later in the second half, it's a blowout. Then yeah, roll into all that stuff. But yeah, overall, I liked it. Just a couple nitpicks here and there, which I probably would have had with anybody.
These aren't normal games, like you said. Like these are going to be, I assume, significant margin victories. I mean, we're a 40-point favorite and won by one. Save the stories for another game. That's not the one, but like I think for most of them, we're gonna be closer to that 40-point margin, and you're gonna need some stories. There's just gonna be some dead air times that I'm sure he was just excited and maybe should have saved those for another moment. But I think we're gonna need stories. I don't think he's just gonna be doing X's and O's. Look at that. Some of the greatest players in the world made some really great plays. It's like, yeah, that's what they're gonna do. I think you're gonna need the story. So nothing really against all that, and very excited for the Olympics going forward. Which movie segment do you want to do? We could squeeze one in here. Do you want to do the Deadpool one or do the Rotten Tomatoes one?
The Deadpool one.
We're going to do this spoiler free. All right? Right? You're going to be good? You promise?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We can do this. We went to the premiere of Deadpool and Wolverine last Friday night. This is the only Marvel movie being released this year. I know there were other superhero movies, and trust me, there's a confusion between why those are not included into this at all. But this movie has been advertised for, almost a year now of anticipation of what it could be and what it might be. It was originally just Deadpool 3, and it is still a Deadpool 3. And then we got the Wolverine introduction. Hopefully that isn't spoiling anything if you were just that far out of the loop of all of this. But one of the things I was promised for all this is that this is going to change the Marvel timeline, that everyone didn't like, that there was essentially 10, 12 movies of homework that you had to know prior to all this to then see the new movies, and that this was going to make fun of all that and kind of fix all of this. And I felt like they gave us homework for a whole bunch of movies that no one's seen in even longer periods of times, referencing older movies that, I don't know, maybe you saw 10, 20 years ago, but I thought that was my only real beef with it all. Other than that, I kind of like an R-rated Marvel movie, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it felt like this was more of a cult classic, and I remember superhero movies feeling better when they were cult classics. It was cool when it was just a mainstream mega requirement of your life to just go see all of these movies, but I think we're past that era, and we can just go back to having fun, silly movies similar to this one. So I'm giving that as an opinion. I'm not sure what else you have to add to all of this, but did you at least enjoy the movie? Can we at least say that?
Oh yeah, big time enjoyed the movie. I thought it lived up to the hype, which can be difficult. I think it helped as well that we had a group of people going. It wasn't just you're just going on yourself and almost a little more of a of a chore. It's like there was an excitement going into the theater. Pretty much a full theater, knowing it was the first weekend, so other people are making this a priority. It wasn't you're hearing word of mouth. Yeah, I heard this was good. It's like you knew it was going to be good going in. I've liked all the other Deadpool movies. I've liked all the other X-Men movies, the Wolverines, specifically, and those go way back. There was a whole bunch of cameos and callbacks, and I'm gonna have to watch it again because I'm sure I missed a whole bunch because I'm not the most plugged in comic book person. But it was just fun. It was just fun. We had talked. I don't know, might have even been like months ago about just, hey, we're really not going to the movies much, anymore. It's like, is there a movie, on the horizon? Like, what would have to be to get you to go? And I think I mentioned this one, immediately, and I definitely wasn't disappointed in my choice.
I think one of the reasons we prioritize it is spoilers are really the only reasons I think you need to see movies in theaters anymore. Whether you can avoid them properly or just know that everything you're consuming, whether it's podcasts, social media, day-to-day conversations, that you're just not going to be able to avoid that, and that it's just surrounding you, is kind of the reason I felt the need to go see it. And there's not enough movies that make me feel that way anymore. But even when I say that, I don't know if this is necessarily the most mainstream movie, anyways. Even though it made a ton of money, like, do we want more movies like this, or do we want more movies like kind of what they've been doing? Do you think this is like a real redirection?
Well, what are you comparing? Like, if you say like the most recent ones, I mean, they've had some duds, but I mean, before that, it was good. It was they had like an all time run, and it's just like, well, a movie like this. Well, do you mean like a sequel, or
Well, they're all
more in
sequels at this
line, or you
point.
just mean, hey, they grabbed two bona fide superstar actors and put them in a movie together. Like Hugh Jackman has he's a leading man on his own, and Ryan Reynolds can be a leading man on his own, and putting them together, it just I don't know how you exactly put your finger on it, but having just superstars lead it works in a way that other things don't work.
They do have chemistry though. I think a lot of these superhero movies kind of get just simplified into like, all right, it's awesome plus more awesome, and it's like just a superhero movie, cool.
Yeah, it doesn't always work. Yeah,
But I do think there's good chemistry between these two, and I do think there's a fun joke going back and forth between them, as well as the comic book characters having kind of even grounds of powers as well, which I think we're always trying to level of like, oh, this guy's really good at this, and this guy's stronger with that, and this makes them the most effective Avenger, blah, 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 of all this. I thought there was kind of an even playing field, both in like the comic book character of the two of them, as well as the actor level of both of them, as you mentioned, just being endlessly entertaining and taking shots at each other, not only as the characters, but really as the personal actors in themselves back and forth throughout the entire movie. Lots of fun jokes at the Marvel expense of Disney and all of that. I kind of like those. I think those are always going to hit. Like, is there ever going to be a point in time where you're like, oh man, they took too many shots at Disney? Like, I'm really not for this. Like, is it just a rebel in me that's like, yes, R rating, more shots at Disney, to hell with the ears.
Yeah.
Let's just chop the head off of it and have a whole bunch of fun and make a big satire out of everything. And I like that. What the superhero movie should be is they should be fun. And I think you can have fun in a lot of different ways. I think they've had fun in the same way too often. This was like a real change up in the feel and the vibe and the pace and the joke rate and the definitely maturity of this compared to any of the other movies. Would you recommend it?
It crushed, man. It broke a ton of records. I would definitely recommend it if you're a Marvel fan, if you like comedy, if you liked any of the X-Men, if you liked any of the Deadpool. If you go, you'll have a good time.
I do think they made us. I think they made it sound like you didn't really need to see any other movies before this, but I do think if you saw a lot of the older X-Men movies and even older Marvel movies prior to Iron Man, so that's how far back you're going, I think you would enjoy the movie even more, which is strange because I think that's more of a target market to older people, which is us right now. And that maybe was smarter to make it R rating because we're all obviously over the age and ready for that. But I do wonder if this is a bit of a gap now. If you're a kid, there's no Marvel movies really for you this year. Like, this was it. And there's nothing else coming out till the Captain America thing next year. Is that a mistake? Like, do you think there should have been, or do you think there should be a re-release of this in a different rating? Because they did that with Deadpool 2, where they kind of re-released a PG-13 version for Christmas as like a special. It was basically the same movie, but they toned it down a lot, and they, I guess, edited some scenes out a little bit. But do you think that's something they should do with this movie? Is there any chance they could do that?
I mean, I guess they probably will do that to get that market, and it's all about making money, so squeeze every last drop. But I guess I don't want them to, but I don't have like a really good reason for them not to. Like, oh no, you can't ruin the sanctity of this movie by watering it down so children can watch it.
I just think even when you fix it up, and I didn't see the PG-13 version of the second Deadpool, so I really can't speak out to it, but I just imagine the movie not being as good and a kid being like, this movie feels weird. Like, this isn't a good version of it. And it's like, well, it's really not. Like, like, you're just seeing the worst version of this. You're not going to get any of the jokes. They're going to all go over your head, and it's not a good enough story that you're like, all right, what am I following here? It's like, this is just a goofy movie, and it's like, yeah, it's supposed to be really, really funny. It's not really supposed to be a plot line where it's like, oh man, and then what happens next? It's not really like that. But I don't know. I had a good time. It was fun to go out to the movies. Just another reminder of that can be a good time. And I don't know where this goes next. I do feel a little silly that I've been so committed to the previous superhero ones, and I don't know what sort of loyalty I'll have going forward. I've definitely waited till they came out to streaming for a lot of the ones prior to this, and I guess they just did a good job finally getting me to go buy the ticket, and they got you as well, and then some of our other friends. Yeah. All right, anything else with this? Let's close out with, I suppose, some Comic-Con news. I don't really want to get into all of this, all right? But I do think that we were saying Marvel was in a bad state. They even said it in the movie. I don't think that's spoiling anything. They definitely say that in the trailer of like, we're not in a great place right now. We don't have Robert Downey Jr. anymore. We don't have Iron Man anymore. And what if we brought him back? And they're like, I don't know. We kind of like the Iron Man storyline, so I don't know if we can really play around with that. And it also seems like it would make it all mean a little less if we just suddenly bring back guys for no reason after really polishing off a good finish. So they say, oh, what if we came back as just a different character? And they're like, oh, well, like another superhero? It's like, he's going to play two different guys? Like, no. What if he came back as another villain? Like, oh, all right, well, I'm a little intrigued in all this. I don't know how it's all going to play out, but do you think you're going to have a hard time accepting Robert Downey Jr. as another character, let alone a character, a villain within the same Marvel timeline?
My first thought was yes, and this is weird, and just seemed like it's a money grab on both sides. Marvel's like, oh, well, we need Robert Downey Jr. All right, we'll make him a villain. We'll figure it out later. But I did read a whole article about Iron Man and Doctor Doom's comic book history, and of course, it's a comic book, so almost everything that could happen has happened. As well as, I guess, Doctor Doom really doesn't take off his mask because he's been horribly deformed. So I think that Downey's a good enough actor that you could give him, an accent, and you could, modular, change his voice up enough that he could still give a performance where you're just not the whole time going, that's Tony Stark. That's Tony Stark the whole time. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they pull it off. I think at this point it just seems forced, but based off of just seeing a successful Marvel movie again, it's I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, it works better with better actors. I'm not saying anyone else in the past has been a bad actor. I just think some of the success of this has been because he's been a part of it, and I think he'll do a good job committing to this new role. I don't know if the movies will line up to it. I hope he doesn't mail in a good performance on a bad movie, but that's probably more likely what'll happen. It'll be like, well, the movie wasn't great, but it wasn't because of Robert Downey Jr. is probably what we will take away from all this. But endless possibilities. Dr. Doom, great villain. Could be all sorts of fun directions to go with that. And I just wonder if you're another actor and you've been competing with Robert Downey Jr. for parts, all of this, you would have thought there's no way they're going to give it to him again. He just did Iron Man for 15 years. Or is it just you had no chance at all? Should we...
so many movies.
Should there would be better opportunities for other actors?
Or a cameo here or there. Just a whole bunch of them.
This is just like Jason Tatum not breaking the top. Robert Downey Jr.'s got to play. All right, we can't do it without him. That's all the time we got for today. Make sure you subscribe. Little column A, little column B. Facebook, Spotify. You can follow Zach on his X account, which is
Wicked Z-Man 24.
We'll be back.
Little column A, little column B.